You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show.
The 70% of people out there listening to the show today are going to need some level of care. It doesn't necessarily mean that 70% are going to end up in a nursing home, but 70% of people will need some assistance out there. The biggest fear is running out of money for the retiree, but what we see is not enough people spend enough of their money.
Cris prides himself in what matters to you. This is the Rite Retirement Show.
Hi there, I'm Louann Fulmar. You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show. And sharing wisdom with us again today is certified financial planner, financial advisor Cris Wallace. He's president of WG Financial Group. And another wise man in the house today, Graham Bauer, also a certified financial planner, financial advisor, and enrolled agent at the firm. And they're here today to help you plan smarter, retire stronger, and play living your best life in retirement. Now, to get a hold of these guys, you can call or text the word visit. 256-937-2010 is the number. Call or text the word visit if you prefer texting. Follow us on Facebook, WG Financial Group. And you can also catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even just go to the website, our website, wgfinancialgroup.com. And hello to you, Cris and Graham.
Hello, Louann.
Good to be here with you.
Always.
Yeah, always good to be talking to you guys.
Oh, okay. So I know we have a lot to get to today, and I am very excited.
We do, but we can slow down a little bit. We're good. We got an hour right here. So,
well, then, okay. Tell me about your life, Cris.
Yes. Rerun last week, of course.
Right.
Right. So I was out of town. I was at a conference with some other CEO business owners, and Graham was coughing too much to
Graham was here a bit sick. Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize in advance if I still let out a cough here and there, but it's whatever's been going around. I'm sure people listening have had some experiences with it, but it's been hanging on. I can't shake it. It's probably a mix of that and also allergy season just hitting at just the right time this year. You know?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all those cigars you're smoking during golf that you don't play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. You said sharing wisdom on the intro. Yeah. I just thought that was kind of funny the way you said that.
Sharing wisdom. Yeah.
Sharing wisdom.
But it's true. That's what you guys do every single week.
We try to do our best. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely try to do our best. But it's good to be back. I love to do radio. It's awesome. So today's St. Patty's Day when we're recording.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to hear this on Saturday, but we're recording on St. Patty's Day. So do you have green on today, Louann?
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I don't want to get pinched. Yes, I am wearing green. How about you guys?
No, I refuse to wear green.
Why?
As a Minnesota Viking fan.
Oh,
green is the enemy.
It is.
Well, you're kind of wearing some purple today. A little. I mean, it's maybe a
bluish
more of a
purple
salmon. Yeah.
So wait a minute. Who's your
fuchsia? It's fuchsia.
Who's your what would you call that? Your adversary, your rival?
Yeah, Green Bay Packers.
Oh, of course. Packers. Yeah.
Yeah, people are like, oh, well, they won a Super Bowl and the Minnesota Vikings haven't. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's all true.
Yeah.
Still not going to make me wear green, though.
Oh, that's too funny.
You can beat me up verbally, but you're not putting green on me.
You're like, pinch me all you want.
Yeah, that's
you're really showing them there.
You're showing them.
Yeah. We did pick up a pretty good steal in the free agency market there.
Ooh. Kyler
Murray for 1.3. I think what will be really funny, Graham, is not to get on the sports tangent here because that's not what we're here to talk about, but we did pick up Kyler Murray for $1.3 million because Arizona is paying him like $30 million because they owe him $30 million. And what would be awesome is if by some lucky chance we win the Super Bowl this year, do we have to put an asterisk by that because Arizona helped finance it with Kyler Murray? Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of the financial backers of that.
Yeah, they are. They're paying almost all of his salary to play on our team, and we've got him cheaper than you'd pay a rookie.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I can't imagine any other, maybe there is, but I'm unaware of it. If there's any other profession where your employer, you can go to a different competitor and still be getting paid $30 million a year by
another company. Yeah,
employer who is
crazy.
Now a competitor.
Yeah, it is. So anyway, we'll move off of sports because I know there's a lot of people going, what are they talking about football for? Because we love football. That's why. But we also love finances. So let's get into it, Louann.
Yeah. Okay. So I always like to see if you guys have a real talk for us because those are kind of interesting and just little short stories. Do you have anything?
I don't know that we have a real.
No? Okay.
full reel, but it's just something we've seen and heard a lot.
Okay.
I think so. Graham will kind of open us up with that for sure.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but one thing that you hear a lot on social media, especially from a certain type of person, is that 401ks are a scam. And in our opinion, most of the time, if someone is saying 401ks are a scam, they're probably a scammer themselves or peddling some kind of scam. And, maybe it's not always a traditional scam in the sense of just stealing money, but is it a good financial option that they're offering as an alternative? Usually what you're seeing on the other side of that is 401ks are a scam. So you should put all of your money into some kind of max funded life insurance policy that you can borrow against, or B, 401ks are a scam. So you should just buy a bunch of real estate and leverage a ton of debt and not have anything in specifically retirement savings and just have cash flow.
Right.
And it's one of those things where neither of those A or B are always a bad option for everyone, but they're not a replacement for what the 401k is. No. So could somebody have a certain type of life insurance policy and a 401k? Sure. Yeah. It's just in the same way you could have a real estate portfolio and also a 401k, but they're not necessarily not necessarily. They're not a one-to-one replacement for each other in function, nor were they really ever meant to be. I mean, it's the criticisms that people will make. Sure. You're not always going to be able to access all the money without tax and penalty before 59 and a half and things like that. But
which is people, a good thing in a lot of cases.
That's such a bad thing for some people. I mean, if everybody's 401k was completely accessible all the time.
Oh my gosh.
People would use it like their checking account. Like, look at how Americans spend out of their checking accounts and their credit cards. If you had a credit card that tapped, or a debit card that tapped straight into your 401k balance, that would not be a good thing.
No.
What a disaster that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the numbers anyway about just the American population behind the baby boomers saving for retirement and how much they're not saving. And that's partially due to how much money, obviously, we spend on lifestyle and keeping up with the Joneses. So when we say scam, we don't mean it in the sense of, someone is going to run off to Mexico with your money. We mean it in a sense of just maybe pulling the wool a little bit over your eyes and saying this quote unquote product is better than a 401k. What always bothers me is when I hear these reels on social media talking about 401ks being a scam, they're always talking about pre-tax, but they're forgetting that you can put Roth in most any 401k that's out there available today. Now, there was a time, say a decade ago, that wasn't always the case. A lot of 401k plans didn't have Roth contribution ability in the past, but nowadays they do. So if you're talking about buying a life insurance policy, because that's really who we hear talk about this the most, are life insurance salesmen, you're putting in after-tax dollars to that life insurance policy anyway. So if you were thinking about this strategy, why not just max out your 401k all in Roth dollars? Because you can put in over $32,000 if you're over the age of 50 at this point. I believe it's $32,500 for the year that you can put in Roth dollars, and buy a term life policy. Cheap, inexpensive way to cover yourself on the insurance side, because that's what these salesmen will tell you. They will say, oh, well, you have life insurance and you have a way to save. Well, if you just buy a cheap term life policy and pile it in your 401k, now you're picking up a company match on top of that. Yeah, true. That's probably going in pre-tax for the most part, but you still have a ton of Roth contribution going in, and you're not going to grow at the same rate in an insurance product that you are in, say, an S&P index fund. It's just not going to happen. No matter how many times you hear it on social media, it ain't going to happen. So it really bothers me that they only talk about one side. It's always the pre-tax. Oh, you're going to get taxed when you pull it out. And I'm like, no, if you put it in Roth, you won't. And yeah. So I just, it gets my blood boiling.
It's sort of like similar to, I think, calling home ownership a scam, where in a sense, Sure, maybe home ownership isn't always right for everyone in every stage of life. There's, you could buy too much house, you could buy a house that turns into a money pit. It's not saying it's a perfect science, but it is one of the most important and historically successful forced savings vehicles in the US and really around the entire world. I think people really underestimate the power of somewhat forced or automated savings vehicles that you have very little or no access to. That's why, no, not to go on a big tangent about this, but in some ways, I feel like the perpetuation of the HELOC loan has also been overall a bad thing. Because again, it's just an easy way to tap in. And when I say this, there's going to always be the people out there that, oh, well, I did this and then I bought another house with it and yada, yada, yada. And maybe that worked out for you. I'm not saying that it's never worked out for anybody before, but sometimes people get really obsessed with the idea of liquidity, and a certain level of liquidity you need to have. But then on the other side of the spectrum, I feel like a lot of us kind of need to protect ourselves from ourselves a little bit. And that is why historically things like the 401k, things like home ownership have been so powerful, because they haven't been nearly as liquid as the employer that you work for deposits X amount of dollars into your bank account and you can do whatever you want with that. So I think we've made our point here, but.
Well, let's talk about HELOC for a second. I mean,
Okay,
we're going to get into some tax stuff later on, but this is just like going down these rabbit holes, and I love it. I love these types of rabbit holes. About 40% of people use a HELOC to pay off debt, usually like credit card debt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of percentage, and I don't know the number of this, but there's a percentage, and probably a large percentage of those people that took from their house equity, used a HELOC, paid off the debt to lower their, interest rate. Maybe they're paying 25 or 30% in credit card interest rate. Now they're, in today's environment, probably 8 to 9 in a HELOC, but then they don't cut the credit cards up. And then what happens is they start to rerun up those balances. So there are some people listening to the show that are like, I would never do that. And you're in the select few. You're right. You probably would never do that. But there's a lot of individuals out there in the world today, in the US today, that would do that. And the intention is right, but the follow through is pretty poor. And I would even liken it to working with a financial planner. I've met with people before, and they'll come in and they don't want to work with you for whatever reason. We go through the whole planning process. A lot of times it has to do with like fees. They don't want to work with an advisor because they don't want to pay an advisor to work alongside them. Meanwhile, they never do the things that they said they were going to do. Like, they know what to do. They've done all the research on what they should be doing, but they don't have the time to really make sure that they're doing it themselves. And, but kind of to dovetail back into, probably what we'll talk about today, someone on the tax side is, we didn't do it last year, but I would love to do it. Of the few people that decided not to work with us last year, I would love to have known on January 1st if they did those Roth conversions, if they funded or set up an HSA plan like we identified for them during our discovery and strategy sessions. That would be interesting to know. So all of that to say, the intentions are good in a lot of cases, but the follow through is usually poor, and that's because of life. Life gets in the way.
Right. Yeah.
Our jobs get in the way. That's how we get paid. If we're an employee of a company and we don't have time to be our own financial advisor, and also an employee, a husband, a dad, et cetera. And sometimes it's just better to have somebody walk the journey with you. I have a CPA. I have an attorney that I work with. I have a business mentor. I pay an outsourced CFO. I have a lot of people. I have you guys at the office, Graham, kind of making sure that I walk in a straight line on a day-to-day basis and keep the company going in the right direction. So I think it's okay, to have people surrounding you.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think it comes down to, for a lot of us, we're so busy in our day-to-day lives that we just end up taking the easiest possible route for whatever that ends up being. So, whether that is, I don't want to deal with trying to buckle down to pay off the credit card, so I'm going to, consolidate it into something else, yada, yada, yada. Or whether it's, oh, well, I know I should be doing these things, but I don't really know exactly when I'm going to do them or what accounts I'm going to move around to do that. Or I just don't have time to figure that out right now. And Cris, I do think you're definitely right that, we sit down with a lot of people and a lot of them do become clients, but some of them don't. And there's definitely some people where they come in and they know a decent bit of stuff. It's not like they've never heard of a lot of the concepts that we're talking about before, but they just don't take an active approach to any of it.
The execution is not there.
There's no execution on any of it. They know what they should be doing. Just as such a simple thing, but sure to apply to a ton of people out there. It's amazing the amount of people who have a Roth IRA open and they got like $40,000 in it and they're just not contributing to it.
Right. And they can. Yes.
And that is the simplest thing ever. You would probably be like, why would I pay somebody to tell me that? I can totally do that. And
because the growth over so many years would probably easily pay for the fee.
Yeah.
If they had somebody saying you need to do this and kind of checking with them.
Yeah. I mean, it's easily, and just the fact that I would say, I mean, I don't know what you think, but out of the people that have like a Roth open on the outside, I would say probably less than 20% are actually funding it that come into the office.
For sure. Yeah.
And I would say 80 to 90% of them have the cash available to max it out today without even dipping too hard into liquid cash savings. So it's just little things like that, which again, you can go ask Google if you should do that, and it's going to give you the same answer for a really simple thing like that.
Most of the time.
But are you going to do it at the end of the day? Because I think for a lot of people, you're just not going to take a proactive approach.
Right.
So it is interesting. And I would love to follow up with some folks, a year or two later and be like, hey, here's that list of, 12 recommendations that we made when you came in.
Right. Here's your report card that we showed you and showed you everything that you were inefficient in. Did you correct all these? I agree with you, Graham. I bet a large percentage would still have the same red areas on our report card that they had a year and a half before when they met with us because they didn't execute. Yeah,
I'd say, 80, 50, probably 60 to 80% or more, I would assume didn't, because ultimately I think what it kind of says to us in some regard, there are the people that are just fishing for info or whatnot. But I think when someone goes through the whole process and they see all the inefficiencies and they decide no, what they're really saying is, this isn't important enough to me to pay a little bit to help have help with this and make sure it gets done.
Right.
And I think if that is your mentality, you're probably not going to go out on your own and actually make it a priority, because you've kind of already had the easiest possible option presented to you and said, no, I just don't want to think about this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the HELOC for just a quick second. So we talked about borrowing and then paying off the debt. And I said about 40% of people borrow against their house to pay off debt. And I just did a quick search here online. And according to TransUnion, that the majority of, let's say borrowers from their selves, the HELOC, within 18 months, they've racked up the balances on those credit cards within 18 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's a discipline problem.
Yes,
right there.
It is.
We live in such a society where we want things now.
I want it now.
And I tell you what, we were talking about DoorDash on one of our episodes before, Graham. I think you used to do it. So my daughter's been doing that, and it's amazing. Like, she knows where to go. She knows what time to be there. And she goes out and she makes a ton of money in 2 to 3 hours worth of work. That she does that in addition to cutting hair.
Oh, wow.
And I'm kind of blown away at how much money she makes.
Really?
I'm blown away with how much money she makes, but I'm also blown away with how much money people spend on that as well.
Yeah,
but that's the type of society we live in. And Amazon has made it so easy, so easy to just order something.
Oh, I know.
I was looking through my own personal credit card statement just this morning, and I couldn't believe all of the little $6, $10, $14 Amazon charges that I had on the credit card. Now, to be fair, and not to throw anybody under the bus, it actually wasn't me doing that in my household. Not that I haven't done it, because believe me, I have.
Yeah.
But this was another part of my household doing that. No names. We will not say any names. We will not incriminate anybody. I don't want to end up divorced.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, there's a lot of little
adds
charges.
up.
It
It
does.
adds up.
It really does.
And it's just a big word in tech, I know, is the word friction. You know, how frictionless can you make a transaction?
Yeah.
And there is nothing,
Yeah.
I think, in this world with less friction in it than the buy now.
Oh,
I know.
It's really amazing. It almost doesn't feel like you're spending money.
Yeah.
It almost feels
Yeah.
like it's free. You know, your card information
Yep,
is saved. You
it's
literally
there.
click buy now,
Yep.
and you like
Click.
swipe,
Click.
or I forget exactly what the motion is, but it's so unbelievably
Yeah.
easy. We moved last month just up the road, and you know, when you move, you get rid of all of your stuff that you don't want to carry with you. And you give it to
Right.
Goodwill or you sell it, and then you're like, okay, we finally have just the stuff we need. And you get to the new place and you realize you don't have anything you need now, and you got to buy it
Now
all
you got to
again.
buy new
So
stuff. Yeah.
I've been very acquainted with Amazon this last month, and it is amazing. You're just like $8 to $15 purchases, but there's just like 35 of them, and then you're like, wow, that really
That hurt.
yeah,
It
that added
does.
up.
Yeah, it
That
does.
added up. It's sort of like going to, you know, buy a lunch every day. It feels better to go spend $12 on lunch than it does to spend like $45 in one sitting to go buy a bunch of groceries. But at the end of the day, you're coming out ahead. So it plays with human psyche. So
Yeah.
I feel a little bit for the consumer, as I am one of them. But at the same time, it's just when you're talking about how easy things are, I think just the fact that it's so easy to say, okay, well, you know, have this credit card debt racked up, but then we can always use the HELOC to roll it into a lower interest rate, and then we can pay that off. And it just creates these cycles where I do think that you know, really have to be disciplined, or you just have to earn enough that it doesn't matter. But for most people, you know, that discipline is increasingly important if they don't want to put themselves in a rough situation.
Yeah. And I think if to tie this back to what we do, I mean, Graham and I are just like everybody listening to the show. Like when people come in to see us, there is no judgment, because we do a lot of the things that we tell you to do. And we do a lot of the things that you do currently.
Right.
Like we do Amazon.
Yeah.
I do try to pay off my credit cards every month, and I'm successful at that. I carry debt on my home, but I really don't carry like other debt. So we're not perfect either. But I think when it comes to financial planning, it's about incremental improvements and making sure that you're getting a little bit better today than you were yesterday, and you get a little bit better tomorrow than you are today. And I think when people come in, they see that, they feel that the realness in the office is that we're not, we're not judging at all. I will say this: I did have someone come in the office last week, and this individual gave me like what they were spending per month, and it was pretty low, even for a single individual with no debt. It was really low, and I'm always kind how I respond to stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, this seems really low. Are you sure? Like, what about your groceries and your cell phone bill and your car insurance and eating out money? No. It's that amount right there. That's what it is. And he had a little like Excel thing typed out that he gave me.
Yeah.
And when we did his plan, my son, Christian, who'll be on the radio before too much longer, I told him, I said, Christian, we can't use this number. I know he told us this is real, but we need to protect him from himself in this case, and we need to use a higher number. And so I used $1,000 more than what he told me in the construction of the plan that we were building to lay out to kind of present to him. So when he came back in, he saw the number that we were using.
Yeah.
And he said, "Where did you get that number?" And I was like, we kind of asked Christian to make the number up, because the number you gave me was like $1,000 less. And he's like, "No, did I tell you that?" And I said, "Yeah, you did." And he said, "No, I don't think I did." And I said, "Hold on." I open up the folder. I pull out the Excel sheet that he printed and brought with him. And I said, "I just added those numbers together. And you see, I circled that number. We talked about that being pretty." He's like, "Oh yeah." He said, "Well, you know what, Chris, I went home, I started looking at my bills, and I realized that sheet was wrong." So I was like, "Well, that's why we're using a higher number."
That's
because
right.
I've sat with, at this point, hundreds of families, like, in the high 100s of families. And there's a range of expenses I think you and I see, Graham, for people that are debt free, that kind of just live a regular life. They don't travel a lot, and they just kind of, I call it homebodies like myself. They're not out traveling. There's a range of expenses. So when I see a number, I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, I'm not calling you a liar. Please don't take it that way. But it's just off the average of what we normally see.
Right.
So can we dig a little further? Well, this guy went and dug a little bit further.
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. And then come to find out, the number that I ended up putting in play was a pretty close estimate to what he thought. But again, that's experience. That's called gray hair.
Yeah.
That I
so
have
funny.
that haven't sat down with a lot of people. But I think all of that to say, as we kind of get near, we've talked this whole segment. I wanted to get into some tax stuff. So if you're listening, you're going to want to catch the whole show because we got some good tax stuff on the backside of this. I think all of that to say, I think it does help to have somebody working with you. And big deal. If it's, you have to pay them, big deal. If it's us, great. If it's not, find somebody that you can sit down, you can trust. Find somebody that's doing some of the same things that they're talking about with you. So back to the universal life policy there. If you've got somebody telling you to pull out of your 401k and basically pay the tax to fund a big universal life policy, 5 figures a year in a lot of cases is what I've seen on the market today. Ask them if they're doing that, because I think that's a valid question. We get asked all the time, well, what do you charge and how are you paid? Well, I think it's a valid question that if somebody is telling you to buy this product and you should do this, then if it's that good, they should be doing it themselves. And, when I look at my own personal retirement planning, I have my money managed by another person or another outfit, just because I don't always trust my emotions with my own money, because I'm emotional too. And I tell you, since I've started doing that, I relax a lot more. I don't have to worry about it. So these are the returns I want to try to achieve. This is the risk level, which obviously I'm fairly risky myself right now and my stage of life. I think those are valid questions to ask. Is if I'm being asked to buy something, are you doing this? And if not, why not? Why is it good for me but not good for you? Kind of a thing. So anyway, that's how we are at the office. Fully transparent. We have 5 certified financial planners on staff. Pray for my son. He tests this coming Monday for his certification. Now, he won't be able to carry it for a while because to be a CFP, there are multiple requirements that are required of you. Education and passing the test is one of those, or a couple of those. But then there's also the experience side of things. And you either have to have so many years or hours in the industry, or you have to have worked underneath a certified financial planner like myself for a certain period of time. So anyway, just keep him in your prayers. He does test this coming Monday. I know he's a little bit nervous because, Graham, you remember this is a big deal. Like, it's a big test.
Yeah. You study for a long time, so it's.
Yeah, you do. And
it's all leading up to the big day.
Yeah, exactly. So he'll be doing that this coming Monday. So if you're hearing this on Saturday, it will be Monday after this Saturday. So all of that said, it's been a kind of a relaxed first segment for us. So again, if you're catching the show, the 30-minute version on the way to church, please jump out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I think it's even on YouTube. You can actually catch the audio version of this, because the back half of the show, we're going to talk about tax things that we need to do before April 15th. And then we're going to talk about some proactive tax things that you can do for the remainder of the year. So if you'd like to give us a call, come in and sit down with our team, you can call us at 256-937-2010. That is for a discovery session. Again, no judgment. It's all fun and good. We have a good time in those meetings. 256-937-2010. And you can give that number a call for your discovery session. 256-937-2010.
Would you rather pay more or less in taxes? If you want to pay more, don't do anything. If you want to pay less, talk to Cris Wallace to see what's possible for you. Just text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Again, text VISIT to 256-937-2010.
Are you a federal employee feeling pressure from the early retirement offers like VERA, VSIP, or the Deferred Resignation Program? Recent government initiatives have introduced significant changes to federal retirement programs, making employees feel pressured to consider early retirement or face potential layoffs. At WG Financial Group, we help guide federal employees through these uncertain times. Our team understands the complex federal retirement systems and can help you make informed decisions. Call 256-937-2010 to schedule your complimentary discovery session with us today. We'll help you assess your options and create a personalized retirement plan to help you feel more confident. Visit wgfinancialgroup.com or call 256-937-2010 to book your session. Firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Dreaming up your ideal retirement? It starts with a solid plan tailored to your unique goals. Set aside uncertainty by arranging a friendly, informative session with Cris Wallace. Just text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Begin charting your course with confidence.
And we are so happy that you're spending part of your day with us today. You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show with Cris Wallace, president of WG Financial Group, also certified financial planner and financial advisor there. And then, of course, also with us, Graham Bauer, another certified financial planner at the firm, financial advisor, and enrolled agent. So remember, you can find us online anytime at wgfinancialgroup.com. So guys, we are right up against the April 15th deadline. Can you believe that? We're weeks away from it. I think a lot of people think once they file their taxes, they're done for the year, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. Cris, tell us, what are some things investors can still do before the tax deadline that could impact their 2025 taxes?
Yeah, IRA contributions are a big one. So if you're doing pre-tax traditional IRA, then that's a way to obviously help lower your tax obligation. You can do that before tax day. Same thing for Roth IRA contributions for last year. You can still do those up until April 15th. HSA contributions can still be made and deducted for a prior year, so be aware of that. If you're a business owner, self-employed, and you're using a SEP IRA, you can still make contributions there as well. And just, make sure that you're reviewing any potential last-minute deductions and maybe credits, that were available. Make sure your tax person is looking at that. We don't do taxes at the office. We just talk about these points within our planning process, and then we kind of call out some things that we want you to look at. So those would be some of the bigger ones that I think people can still do.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Last minute things to do. Now let's get into HSAs. One of your favorites, Cris.
I think Graham said on one of the shows that I love Jen the most, and then HSAs.
And then HSAs,
really close second.
Close number two.
Close number two.
Oh my gosh. So, So, I think this is an area that gets overlooked, but Cris talks about it so much. And I guess that means you kind of do too, Graham. So tell us, why is this one of the most powerful tax strategies available?
Yeah, so same as for the IRAs, if you're going to be maxing out your HSA for the prior year, April 15th is approaching for that as well. HSAs we've talked about them a ton on the show. I would say that the most important thing to note right off the bat here is if you're not currently doing one, you're probably not going to be able to switch over to an HSA plan and max out a contribution before the tax filing deadline. This year, your window's already passed for that. But when open enrollment comes around this year, it is something you can look for as an option for your health plans through your employer. So kind of how I typically describe HSAs to somebody is, saying somebody, just to make the numbers really easy, is in, they're married, they're on a family plan, and they're, let's say they're over the age of 50, they're 50 years old, and they max out an HSA, they're in the 22% tax bracket. That's immediately going to be around a $2,000 tax savings for them just right off the bat, year one. And then at that point, you now have $9,750. It's the max for this year in an HSA that can be used tax-free for medical expenses and even invested, and the growth is tax-free. So it's a triple tax advantage vehicle. It's probably the best vehicle in the tax code overall, just based on those three things. And it's very underutilized for the average person. So again, it's one of those things where I would say, as far as how applicable it is to, your tax filing deadline now, if you're you're not owing taxes, or if you are owing taxes, but you're not currently doing an HSA, be a good thing to look at and say, hey, is my tax liability this year? Did I owe $1,000? Well, maybe I should look at the HSA plan and be able to push a little bit more money into that HSA. And that might even offset that amount that you're owing for future years, as well as help you kind of build up a tax-free account for medical expenses. So this is one of those things that, like we talked about at the end of the last segment, Cris mentioned, if somebody's trying to, sell you something or tell you to cash out your 401k for a universal life policy, ask them where their policy is and see if they're doing what they're telling you to do. And this is something that I think probably most of the people in our office do, but I know me and Cris both do and max out as well. And it's just a great vehicle. So if you've never looked into one, this would be a good time to either say, hey, if you are doing one, make sure you get it maxed out for the year as much as you can get in there. And then if you're not, take a look at it for this time next year, especially if you're owing a little bit when you file.
Yeah, let's take it a little bit further on that HSA again, just to talk about this is something internally when we've done advisor training internally, Graham. You know how we work with our advisory team just to make sure they're aware of things, how to look at things, how to answer questions when clients come to you with questions, and just to overall just add to the knowledge of the firm. But if you're 55 or older, so this is kind of the twist with HSAs. It's 50 or older to do catch up in an IRA and 401k. You can't do an HSA catch up until the year that you turn 55. So if you were 55 last year by 12/31/2025, then you're eligible to put in an additional $1,000. So let's take for an example a married couple for a second. The max contribution for a married couple doing a family HSA, you could put in $8,550. Well, the person that has that high deductible health plan, let's just say they have it through their employer, they're also 55 by the end of the year, like I mentioned, so they get to put in an extra $1,000. So that's $9,550. Let's also take it a step further. Let's say that the spouse is a stay-at-home spouse and they're not actually working. They also can do the catch-up portion in their own HSA. So they'll need their own separate HSA. But because they are 55 and older as well, they get to add in that extra $1,000. So that takes the total between both spouses all the way up to $10,550. And if they're in the 22% tax bracket, that's a $2,321 federal tax savings for them right off the top, because HSAs and 401k pre-tax contributions and IRA pre-tax contributions, that comes right off the top of everything. That's a pretty significant savings there. And then you don't have to spend all of that money. We've talked about that a lot as well. And it can just roll over and you can invest your HSA. And that's what I'm choosing to do with mine, is just let it grow so that I have a kind of like a medical bucket in retirement that's tax-free. And the only time I'll use it is if I have a very, very large expense. But my intention is to continue to let that HSA grow up until retirement. So we say all of this about HSAs, and people are probably saying, man, they must sell them. No, we don't. Mm-hmm. We don't sell them. It's not something you can sell. Right, it's something that you tell other people about it, so that they understand the magnitude of it. And I promise you, there will be people that 10, 15 years down the road, they'll look back just like the same people that when the Roth IRA came on the scenes in the mid to late 1990s, we're going, how is that possible? I don't trust that thing called a Roth IRA. I don't trust that. Well, now there's people like, I don't understand this HSA. So you don't do what you don't understand. You don't work with people you don't trust. You don't take advice and implement it if you don't trust it. So that's what's going to happen with these HSAs.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And one other thing I'll mention on that, if you are somebody who's thinking of starting to make contributions, there are some stipulations for being able to do the family contribution versus the single contribution. So if you're just married, for example, but your spouse is on, I don't know, TRICARE or something like that, and you don't have any kids at home and you're just on a single plan, you're not going to be able to do the full spousal amount or the family amount plus the extra spousal. So you need to be either on a family plan, or both of you need to have separate high deductible plans and separate HSAs, and you can kind of aggregate that. So there are some somewhat, I wouldn't say too confusing, but a little bit tricky rules around that. Like there are a lot of things, but for the vast majority of people, they're on the same health plan. Usually one person's plan is a little bit better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And most plans now in the US, I would say that I see do have an HSA eligible option. The largest employer in the US, the federal government, FEHB, does have HSA eligible.
With GIHA, I think is one of them.
Yeah. And I think United Healthcare, they don't have it with Blue Cross, which is, it's kind of a bummer for some people because a lot of federal folks like to use Blue Cross.
Like 90%.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming, but
is.
they do have options for that. So most employers do. I was talking to someone just the other day who recently started a new job, and one of my first questions, we're asking some questions about the pay, about the benefits. And then it was like, okay, have you enrolled in the healthcare plan yet? Which one did you choose? Let's take a look at them and see if there's an HSA eligible option that we can utilize. So I think it's definitely something that people should look at, A, as, a tax saving vehicle, which is great, but B, as just another investment account really for the average person, if they're able to, let it grow and defer. And I think it's great. That's what I'm personally trying to do as well.
Yeah, let it grow. Yeah, absolutely. And then also just one other little caveat here. At the age of 65, you can actually withdraw that money out of an HSA for anything, but you'll pay tax on it if you withdraw it for anything other than qualified medical expenses. And the way the tax law reads today is you can actually reimburse yourself for some prior year medical expenses as long as you had a high deductible health plan, you were making the HSA contributions, and you have written documentation of that expense, say 3 or 4 years ago, you can still do a medical reimbursement at that point, but you got to have the proof of that. So great vehicle. Enough on that. We've kind of beat that drum to death. Education
until next week.
Right, until next week. Yeah, come back to we're going to change the name of the show from the Rite Retirement Show to the HSA Show, I think.
Well,
but education's key, right? I mean,
exactly.
it is. Education's key.
Education is key. If you want to find out if this might be right for you, which sounds like it probably is, give them a call, 256-937-2010. Call or text the word visit. If you prefer texting, you could get on their calendar that way. And we thank you for joining us. This is the Rite Retirement Show with Cris Wallace and Graham Bauer. I'm Louann Fulmar. And guys, you were talking earlier about, the 401ks. A lot of people probably aren't maximizing it like they should. They're not contributing to it as much and maximizing it. So, Cris, tell us what investors need to be thinking about when it comes to maximizing those contributions.
Yeah, 401ks are, we talked about in the first segment, kind of the real talk was 401ks are a scam. The 401ks are great. I mean, they really are. And we have one at the company. I wanted to have a way to make sure that I was contributing to my retirement savings, and then also so that for employee retention reasons and benefits reasons, we want everybody to have that option about maxing out or contributing, at least contributing to the 401k. So the very basic rule, and everybody knows this, I think, is you should always put in enough to get the employer match. So if you're a federal government employee, you want to be putting in, at least 5% there, so you're getting the full match. And I think you should do that with any employer plan. Just make sure you find out what the company is willing to match, and then you put in enough to get and take advantage of that free money, because that's free money. Why would you not do that? And it's invested in all of those good things. So I do find that people I've talked to in the past, Graham, I know you and I have talked about this offline before, you'll ask them, are you contributing to your 401k? Are you maxing? And a lot of people will say, yes, I'm maxing it out. And what they mean after you dig a little bit on that is that they are maxing to get the match. They're not maxing it all the way out. So I want to talk about contribution limits in 2026. So your basic contribution limit for anybody under the age of 50 is $24,500 a year that you can put in. In the year that you turn 50, so I'm already past that, so I can max out the catch-up contribution, which is $8,000. So this year, if you're above the age of 50, you can put in $32,500 into your 401k. If you're between the ages of 60 to 63, you can actually do what's called super catch-up, which is an $11,250 in place of the $8,000. So it's not $8,000 plus $11,250. It's $11,250, and that takes your total that could go into the 401k up to $35,750. So those are the numbers that you can put in. We've talked about this on the show before as well. If you're a W-2 employee and you make more than $145,000 a year in income, then what happens to the catch up that you're putting in is it must go in as Roth dollars. So we mentioned this multiple times in the fall of last year because we felt like it would catch a lot of people off guard, because if you're making more than $145,000 a year, you're probably in the 22% tax bracket, and an $8,000 Roth catch-up contribution that you were previously doing pre-tax is going to represent about $1,760 of federal tax. Maybe a surprise to some people, because all of a sudden, why am I paying $1,700 extra in tax? That's because your Roth contribution went in, or your catch-up contribution went in as Roth. And if it's $11,250, we're looking at about almost a $2,500 swing. I'll call it a negative swing in taxes that you may have to owe. So just be mindful of that. Make sure you're doing the appropriate planning there and trying to either offset that or maybe adjusting your withholdings to account for that. So 401ks are great. We were talking about them a little bit earlier in the first segment. You can do, in a lot of cases, you can do Roth. So kind of a rule of thumb I think that we kind of operate off of is if you're in the 10 or 12, it's probably a really good idea just to take a strong look at Roth. Now, again, don't take this as like broad advice for everybody to go run with. You need to be working or talking with a tax professional or at least a financial professional. But our mentality here is low tax bracket Roth. As you kind of start going higher into the high 22, the 24, I think somewhere in the high 22s, you got to start looking at a little bit of a mix in some cases. And then in the 24, even up to the 32 and higher, I think you got to lean a little bit heavier pre-tax. Now, the one thing that you really got to base your contributions off of is where do you think you're going to be in retirement? And that, to me, I don't know how you feel about this, Graham, but I think as you look forward at the tax brackets, I don't know exactly where they're going to be. I feel like today, I'm just talking about myself for a second. If I'm looking forward at my retirement, I feel like I would probably be in the 22 marginal bracket today if I were in retirement, the type of income that I want to generate to be able to support future grandkids and help my kids and help Jen and I have a decent retirement. I'm probably going to be in that top, maybe that 22 marginal rate. So if I'm in the 24 or 32 bracket today, I'm probably going to lean pre-tax money to save myself taxes today, because I'll then be able to pull it out at a lower rate. And I think that's the guesswork. And the problem with doing that is the brackets can move. And I am concerned. I'm not concerned about 90% like top marginal rates myself personally, but I am concerned that tax rates are going to go up a little bit in the future. One, we have a massive government spending problem. They cannot, for the life of them, they can't stop spending money and giving stuff away, and they can't stop spending money. So the government, unfortunately, uses our tax dollars to help fund things within the government. So I just think that the tax rate probably have to go up somewhat in the future. Now, if you run on that from a congressional perspective, you ain't getting elected. Hey, by the way, I'm Cris Wallace, and I'm going to raise your taxes.
Yeah.
Remember that? I think it was George Bush that said no new taxes. Was it back in the 90s?
Read my lips. Yeah.
It was Bush, right?
Yeah, I think it was Bush.
It was Bush. It was the
but
first
read
Bush.
my lips. I'm going to raise taxes. Well, you're out, bro. You're not getting elected. You're done.
And he did not.
Yeah, but I
next
think
term.
if history teaches us anything, it's that when that happens, I'm sure whoever does it will not be running on that platform. But I do agree with you that it does feel like over time, I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be next year. I don't know if it's going to be 37 and a half years from now. I'm not sure. But over time, you have to imagine that rates probably will go up. Not even necessarily. I mean, yes, the debt is obviously a problem, and you could point to a lot of those things, government spending, all of that. But if you just look at where we are historically, our tax rates are pretty much as low as they've been in 80, 90. They're very historically low right now. So you just have to imagine it's going to be hard for them to, at the very least, get any lower. Even if you're someone who's saying, yeah, I don't think they're going to raise, I just would have a hard time thinking that they're going to be lower in 10 years than they are today. So, we'll see. I'm willing to be wrong about that one, but I do agree that is one of the key things you have to look at from a Roth or pre-tax standpoint. I've had a lot of conversations with people where they have said something to the effect of, man, I really wish that 15, 20 years ago, I just did everything Roth. And I understand the sentiment of that, but for a lot of people, it may not have actually worked out that badly for them. If you look at where they were, especially if they've always been relatively higher income earners,
right?
Tax rates are lower today on average than they were 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So if you were contributing money into higher tax rates and now you're retired and now you get all these extra senior deductions and this, that, and the other, and you can Roth convert in lower brackets than you paid
Social
into.
Security's
Yeah, Social Security's
free. Yeah.
more tax efficient. So I think for a lot of people, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not a huge fan of Roth, and I totally am. And if you're 25 years old right now, yeah, the compounding growth of that is probably going to outpace most tax rate changes. So I wouldn't even consider that quite as much unless you're making like $1 million a year. But for the average person who was 45 20 years ago and contributing a lot of pre-tax and is now 65, I mean, you'd have to run the number on each person's scenario. I guess what I'm saying is I think if you're out there thinking that you completely lost out and you just would have been a million times better to go all Roth the whole time, maybe not. And even if you would have been a little bit better, I don't think it's going to be as night and day as some people think it might have been. So again, it's just so specific to people's scenarios, where they are in life, when they're going to retire, and what they're investing, all of that stuff. So I guess trying to be maybe some encouragement to someone out there who is beating themselves up about not getting on the train early enough.
Yeah, I do agree. It's very situational based. I think we just hate to pay taxes so bad that we look back and go, I should have done this. Well, it may not, like you just pointed out, it may not have been the best thing to do that. You may have done the best thing and at the time knew you were doing the best thing, but now you've landed in 2026 and you're looking back going, well, that probably wasn't the best thing, but it probably was. But just the thought of tax-free just sounds really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's really good. I'm not.
It is really good. Yeah. I'm not there. I wish I were, but I'm not.
Well, okay. I want to move on to something called the Mega Backdoor Roth. And, I've heard you guys talk about it before. I think it's a little complicated. Graham, why don't you tell us what it is? Who should be paying attention to this?
Sure. So this is really something primarily for the very high income earners out there. So some people are going to listen to this and say, wow, I wish I had this problem. But some people do have the problem that they max out their 401k, they max out their HSA, maybe they do their Roth IRAs if they can, and they still have money left over. And it's just sitting in a bank account and they don't really know what to do with it. And they are just looking for an option and they want to be efficient with it. So for those people, inside of your 401k, you may have the option for after-tax contributions, which the industry slang term for that is the mega backdoor Roth. Mm-hmm. So the reason that they call it that is that, let's say, well, first of all, I'll start here. So we talked about the normal 401k contribution limits. They're about $32,500 if you're over 50, $24,500 if you're under, and then there you have the extra amount that gets you up past $35,000 if you're between 60 and 63. So those are kind of the basic ones, and that is the amount that can go in from an employee. So you as the employee can put that in either pre-tax or Roth. The after-tax is the amount that can go in above that, and there's actually a different limit for total 401k contributions. So between the employer, and between the pre-tax, Roth, and after-tax contributions, the total, I believe this year is about $82,000 or $80,000.
So it's 72 if you're below the age of 50.
Yeah, I was doing the above 50.
So if you're above 50, it's 80. If it's the super catch-up, it's 83,250.
Yeah. So it's around 80 if you're over 50. It's 72 if you're under 50. Mm-hmm. But that means that there's this whole gap. So let's say you put in your $32,500 and your employer matches, I'm going to make the numbers easy on myself, say $7,500. That means you put in $40,000. Mm-hmm. If you're above the age of 50, there's another $40,000 you may be able to put into the after-tax portion of that 401k. The reason you would do that is that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, when you retire, let's say that $40,000 that you put in has grown to $75,000 and it's time to roll over your 401k, you've retired. But when you do that, the $40,000 that you contributed after tax will actually be eligible to roll to a Roth IRA. And then the growth on that, the $35,000, will roll to a traditional IRA. So it's not the same as a Roth. You're not putting money into Roth status that's going to grow tax-free, but you are building up money that will be eligible to roll into Roth status later on. So you can, obviously for a single individual over 50, $8,600 is your max into a Roth IRA this year. So it's just a good way if you're really trying to push money into Roth status and you have extra money and that's just sitting in your bank account. Otherwise, we're big fans of utilizing it, but it's not available in every 401k. And if you do the full 80, it is going to, for a lot of people, make your paychecks feel really small, but you can build up a ton of Roth money on the back end. So it is a good option to look into for the high income earner that's kind of got that extra liquidity, that extra cash sitting around.
Yeah, just a couple of notes on this. So as Graham mentioned, it's not available to everyone. Boeing and Lockheed Martin have this option in their 401k plans. So if you're making a lot of money or looking for a strategy, it's a great opportunity to, as Graham kind of noted, put in some future Roth dollars. A couple of key things to note here also. One, the growth on those dollars upon rollover or conversion to a Roth, the growth on that money is pre-taxed. So let's say over a course of, 4 years, you put in 160,000. So maybe you did that, your example, maybe you did that 40, 40, and 40. You got 160. That money would be eligible for rollover. The growth on that would have to go to a traditional IRA. But still, it's a great way to put money in a position to be able to put it in a Roth IRA. You've already paid taxes on it. I've also seen situations as we get ready to wrap the show up here, where I've worked with engineers both at Boeing. We have a ton of people that are clients from those organizations that have come in to see us, and I've worked with them, and I've seen situations where they will have a high savings balance. And I'm thinking to myself, why, you're basically saving $1,000 a month. You have a nice emergency fund and you're continuing to pad the emergency fund. You really need to redirect that money into that after-tax portion of the 401k because of the future potential to put that into a Roth IRA. So I've seen situations, and I think when we talk about walking hand in hand with someone, understanding their retirement plan, understanding the options that are available today, that's where we excel. I think it's not to come in and be sold. It's basically to come in, let's design and develop a plan that is going to be really efficient for the engineers that work here in Huntsville, even if you're not an engineer. I say that because a lot of our clients are engineers. Really building that plan to really maximize efficiency, use our Rite Retirement platform that we use our report card to identify where we can make things efficient. And let's kind of work together as a team and make your family better and stronger and really able to go out and play, as we like to say in retirement plan, retire, play. If you'd like to give us a call to set up your discovery session, you can do so by calling 256-937-2010. Again, the number is 256-937-2010. Call for your discovery session. Hope everybody has an awesome and blessed week. And remember to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart.
Please remember, converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. An increase in taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Graham Bauer holds the enrolled agent designation, but is not currently offering tax preparation services. Neither the firm nor its agents may give tax advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business WG Insurance Services. WG Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by WG Insurance Services are not subject to investment advisory requirements. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. WG Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial. This radio show is a paid placement.